joining us via Skype right now. Somebody else that I love, Anita Lesko, is joining us. There's Anita, looking beautiful. I love the cowboy hat.
Hi, Anita.
As always.
It's a big day, Anita. It's World Autism Awareness Day, and it is also the day that you have a new book that is out as of today, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. There it is. Temple Grandin and the Stories I Tell My Friends. It's quite an accomplishment, and like I said, we are going to talk a lot more about that, and we're going to talk with Temple herself in just a few minutes. But Anita, you are an amazing woman in your own right, and for people who've never watched the show before, tell them what it is, what your day job is.
Well, my day job is I put people to sleep in the operating room for surgery, keep them asleep, and wake them up. I'm a certified registered nurse anesthetist that I've been doing for 30 years now.
I needed you to say the A word, the anesthetist, because it's a struggle for me, especially in the morning, and it's still morning on the Pacific Coast here. And you've been working at the top of your field for a really long time. And I think it's very easy for the rest of us to look at you and go, oh, that's all figured out and life is good. Mm-hmm. But you recently wrote an article in The Mighty that kind of brought all of us to our knees, Anita. For anybody who didn't read it, talk to us about that, what you wrote.
I talked about I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've been in 5 different states. So it's not that it's just been at one hospital. But for all these 30 years, and while I was a student, I've been discriminated against for being different, bullied, and harassed. It's something it still happens to this day. Most recently was the incident of the operating room nurse literally yelling at me, pointing his finger at me and saying, you minorities, you're what's wrong with this country. You people expect us to change to accommodate you. You're what's wrong with this country. And I stood there frozen looking at him in utter disbelief that I actually heard somebody say that, because it wasn't just an attack on me, it was an attack on all autistic people to say something like that.
And I mean, it takes my breath away, I have to say. And Joanne, jump in whenever you want. But I want to start with saying I'm sorry, Anita. I want to say that I'm sorry because I didn't know that was happening. And I'm sorry that is happening on a regular basis to you, and everybody should read the article in The Mighty. If you go to The Mighty and put in Anita Lesko, you'll see some of the different things that Anita has written. And what is the name of this most recent one about workplace bullying? Do you remember, Anita?
Shattering the Silence of Workplace Autism and Workplace Bullying.
There we go. And I was just stunned by some of the insensitivity of some people. You write at one point that, I mean, I know in operating rooms, and we see this on television depicted a lot, where they'll play music, right. Loud music.
Right.
But that there have been times, Anita, where they've done it specifically to see if they can get you rattled.
Well, it's kind of an ongoing thing. One of the people, and I work with these people on a regular basis, and they'll make the comment, it'll be like 5:30 in the morning, and they have the big music box over there ready to go, and they'll say, oh, let's put on some heavy metal, and let's all watch Anita's face, and then everybody bursts out laughing. Because they know that's the one thing, because the sound of electric guitars at a really high volume, it actually stimulates my sympathetic nervous system. It actually makes me react physically, not only, I get a raging headache, but physically I start sweating and become physically ill from that. And I've told them this over and over, and they think I'm making it up. They think it's a joke. And the thing is, there's been several other employees with autism come through the particular place I'm at now, which I'm here for 20 years. And they were not anesthetists, but one was a circulating nurse who worked in the operating room, and the other was a scrub tech. And now the nurse, she did not know at the time when she came to work there, she was in her 40s. She did not know she had Asperger's, but she did know that she didn't have any friends, couldn't get along socially, and had one problem after another in the workplace, and would end up either getting fired, or she would quit just when she knew she was going to get fired, and went from job to job as a traveling nurse, And the same thing with the scrub tech person. Well, the scrub tech knew he was autistic, as I later found out, and the circulating nurse, I had heard about her for 3 months prior to actually getting to work with her. And one day, and I would hear these stories. Oh my God, you can't even believe how she is. And she's so weird, and she's so, this and that. And I'm like, well, like, be specific. Tell me something. Well, she's just weird. You can't even talk to her or anything. Okay, so finally one day, I'm assigned to work in the same room as her. Well, it took me less than 5 minutes to figure it out. And I had gone up to her at the end of the day, and I asked her, I said, do you know what Asperger's syndrome is? And she said, no. And I said, well, go home and read about it and come back and talk to me in the morning. Well, the next morning she walks up to me, bursts out crying, throws her arms around me, and she said, oh my God, you've answered the question of my life that I couldn't figure out. Why am I so different? And now I can't believe that now I know why. Since then, she's actually gotten a full-time job that in one place, and she's not doing the traveling thing anymore after she had gotten diagnosed. But the point what I'm trying to make is, it's not just me that gets this kind of discrimination and bullying, harassment. And so I think of the bigger picture of how high the rate of people on the spectrum who are either underemployed or unemployed. And I know from talking to many people and reading about bullying and discrimination in the workplace is part of the problem. So this is a whole big picture. It's not just about Anita Lesko. It's about the big picture of everybody else who's out there who wants to be employed. And I'm a pretty tough person. I'm the kind of, take the bull by the horns kind of person, but not everybody is like that, and would very easily get run out of a workplace who couldn't handle things that I do, and have come to learn how to deal with it, take it to the appropriate channels. But even when you do that, it still happens.
I guess I want to start with, what can we do? And I want this to be an open discussion, but I so appreciate you saying, Anita, that it's not just about you, but for me, there's at least a part of it that is about you. I am appalled that where is the basic human decency of people? That even if autism weren't a part of the equation, if I'm working with someone and I have any care for them at all, I want them to do a good job and not tear them down. Mm-hmm. And for people in an operating room to be joking about making it harder for you to do your job, it's appalling when they know that you are on the spectrum. But even if they didn't know that, it's appalling in general. But what can we do?
Well, I want to say that I met Anita in 2014. And she had a conference in Pensacola, Florida, which is where she lives. And I remember Anita and I talking about this at length. And I was like, in the beginning, give me their phone number.
Yeah, right.
I want to talk to those people right now.
Yeah.
And what we're learning is we have to go above those people. And what Anita points out in The Mighty is that when she's done that and gone to HR, then it all turns around on her again. And so you have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, so what do we do here?
Yeah.
And it really is, one of it is understanding and embracing diversity and differences, and that has to come through education. So education from an HR point of view, where we're really coming in and teaching the staff, and there should be accountability.
Yes.
I believe there should be accountability for incidents like this, because that is unbelievable that Anita is going in to do her job and she's being treated. But for me, the story in The Mighty, Anita, is about the surgeon. The surgeon who treated her disrespectfully. Here's a professional to another professional. Anita is a professional. Yes. In the medical field. That's the one that slayed me.
Yeah.
And there needs to be accountability for these individuals.
Anita,
there should be some consequences.
Absolutely. Tell the story so that people who haven't already read the Mighty article can understand what Joanne's talking about.
but one of the surgeons one day, and he knows I have Asperger's, and he knows about the loud music thing. Now, I never have asked anybody to shut the music off. I have never asked that. I've asked him to please turn the volume down so it's just kind of a background thing, but not overriding, even to the point where I can't even hear the heart monitor, the oxygen saturation, and any of the monitors because the volume of the music is overriding that. Or if I had to communicate with another staff member, I can't just say their name. I would have to physically get up and walk over by them to talk to them because the music is so loud. So when I asked for the volume to be turned down, the particular surgeon, he blurts out, he looks right at me and he says, "I don't care about your blanking Asperger's, that's your blanking problem." And I stood there and I looked at him, and I didn't say a word to him. I just, after the case, I went and then called the hospital hotline and made the complaint about him and said, you can make anonymous complaints, but I said who I was and the whole story. That particular surgeon, they made him go to what they call sensitivity training, and then they never assigned me to work in his room ever again. And he actually wasn't the only surgeon who did that type of a thing to me. But again, it's, I think, in the big picture of all autistic people, because I always feel it's an attack on all of us when things like this happen.
Yeah.
Because it could be any other type of a job with any other person and get the same treatment.
And I appreciate you coming forward and saying these things because I think it's going to eventually help a lot of people to raise this level of awareness, because honestly, I could not have imagined that. I just, when you find that people are that mean and that ignorant, people that, as you were saying, Joanne, a professional at that level, it's shocking to me.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be, but it is shocking to me. But that lights a fire in me, Anita, and I'm sure you lit a fire in a lot of different people. But so we need for these people to get educated. What do you think needs to happen now, Anita?
I think in all walks of life, all different kind of jobs, there needs to be education in the workplace that comes from the higher ups. Also all the different levels of understanding autism. No, you cannot see it, because I think that's part of the thing. People can't see, they can't see a person in a wheelchair. They don't see you with a white cane. They don't see you, with some kind of a physical disability thing. So they think you make it up. I mean, I've had different bosses say to me, "Oh, how long are you going to string this Asperger thing out?" Or it's all in your head. Well, actually, yeah, it is all in my head. So I, kind of laugh at that in a way. But I can't even. It's unbelievable to me. In a way, sometimes I've come to the point where I look at these people, and I think to myself, they think they're so superior to me because they don't have this, whatever a lot of them call it, disease or whatever they want to call it. And I think, but I'm the one who would never do what they just did to any human being on this earth. So I think it's the other way around, that I'm the better person because I would never, ever do something like that to another human being.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just stunning.
And we talked about, Anita and I talked about, remember, Anita, we talked about writing here. It's all in the education. And we kind of have to forget about those old Bowsers in a way. And we have to go back to, you know what? We have to start with the kinder and the first and the elementary school students. And it's the same thing I said about employment. Those individuals who are with our kids, who are with autism in a full inclusion setting or in a special day class in an elementary school setting, those kids are going to be the employers down the road. So we need to target those kids, because once they know kids with disability and kids with autism, they're much more apt to give them the job when they're sitting across the table from them and the resume's sitting there. I know you. I have a job for you. We have to go back to the drawing board. So Anita and I were talking about a book that was graphically illustrated by maybe somebody at Exceptional Minds, since we have all those kids that are doing great animation work, and to start to touch on not just I'm different, but really, and I mean, it requires Anita and I really putting our heads together.
Yeah.
But really addressing the issues for the kinder, the first, the second, and third graders, so that we're addressing that issue early on. So it's not going to happen when they're 25 and 30.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've got a whole generation that may be lost. Maybe we can't reach those individuals, but their action should be accounted for. There should be consequences in HR and in the workplace for individuals who treat other people disrespectfully.
Yeah. Well, we've seen a lot of discussion because of the Me Too movement. And maybe there's a way that we can piggyback while we're educating people about how you can't say this and you can't touch people and you can't do that. Let's add this other thing into it too. How about that?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, Anita, on behalf of the rest of the world, I want to apologize and say to you that I agree with you. You are a much better person than the people who are saying those things to you. That shows a level of ignorance and right? But I applaud you for sticking in and being the person who's going to do your job no matter what happens.